So when they are both numbers that are cubed, is 8 a number cubed? Not yet. But what times itself 3 times is 8? You guys know an easy way to find out? So go to your calculator, hit math. Go to the fourth one down, or just hit 4, and it brings up the cube root. Now you just type 8, you hit enter, and it says that it's 2. So what is the number that multiplied by itself 3 times to give us 8? So this is really x, oh, that didn't show up. This is really x cubed plus 2 cubed, right? So we have two things that are cubed. So hopefully you remember the formula. Hopefully you remember seeing a formula. The a cubed plus b cubed formula. It's a plus b, a squared minus ab plus b squared. Okay, so what goes in place of a? So replace all the a's with x, all the b's with 2. So now I come to my formula. There's an a, so it's going to be x. The b is going to be, this a is being replaced with, this a is being replaced with, and this b is being replaced with. So x times 2 is, and then we have b squared. What's 2 times 2? And that's my answer. Yeah, so to find the cube root of 64, we go to our calculator again. We go math, 4, 64, enter, and it says that it is just 64, not the negative part. So a in this case is going to be y, b is going to be 4, and you're going to use this formula, because this is a minus between them, right? So the formula is different for a minus. It's a minus b, a squared plus ab plus b squared. So take a minute, you fill it in now, and then we'll check your work. So you're going to replace all the a's with y, all the b's with 4. Okay, so we're replacing all of the a's with y, all of the b's with 4. So replace this a with y. So y minus 4, a squared, so we're going to have y squared, a times b, so that's y times 4, which we just write as 4y, and b squared, so that means we have 4 squared, which is 4 times 4, which is 16, and that's our answer. So on question 5, you're going to use the minus formula. You need to figure out what the cube root of 216 is, so you go to your calculator and hit math, then what? 4, then type in 216, which is, so a is going to be 6x. What's b going to be? So again, you hit math, then 4, 343, right? So on these, just use the positive value, don't use the negative value. So b is going to be 7. And so now you just plug those in. So replace all the a's with 6x, all the b's with 7. Now, when you replace the a and it's squared, realize you're taking 6x quantity squared. So you're not just squaring the x, you're squaring the 6 and the x. So what's 6 times 6? So it's 36x squared, because you had to go 6 times 6. AB is 6x times 7. What's 6 times 7? So that's 42x. And then at the end we have 7 squared, which is 49. So that's my answer. Okay, so on number 7, you need to figure out what A and B are going to be, but you also need to realize that there's a plus between those, right? And they're both cubed terms, so that's my hint. They're both cubes. So I'm going to use the A cubed plus B cubed formula. So I wrote it down. And now I'm going to go to my calculator and I'm going to find the cube root of 1,000. Whoops. So the cube root of 1,000 is 10. So I'm going to put that A is 10x. Now I need to find the square root of 1331. So math for 11. That's too many threes. I'll take your guys' answer. So it is 11y though, because this had a y cubed on the end, so we had to say it's 11y. So I threw a trick at you. So replace all the a's with, so this is going to be 10x plus 11y. What is 10x squared, quantity squared? What's 10 times 10 is 100, so 100x squared. A times b. Yeah, so 10 times 11 is 110. So negative 110 xy. And b squared, that's 13 times, not 13. Whoa. 11 times 11 is 121. Y squared. Thank you. Come on, erase. So 121 y squared. So on number 9, those are squareds, not cubes. You can't use the same formula. But just to refresh your guys' brains, if I had given you, if I had given you x squared minus 9, and we use the little box. Well, that's a horrible box. You put x squared in here, negative 9 here, right? What multiplies to be negative 9x squared but adds to be nothing? This always works. Like one will always be positive and one will always be negative. When, like this is a squared number. You guys know which one are the squared numbers? Like 4 is 2 times 2. 3 is 9. 4 is. So these numbers are your squared numbers. So whenever you have squared numbers, it'll always factor to be whatever the square root of that number was, if it's a minus between them. So what times what's 25? So it's going to be 5 and 5, and then a plus and a minus. What times what is 64? So 8 and 8, but it has a y squared on there, so that means it's going to be a y with it. So it'll always work that way when it's a squared, when they're numbers squared with a minus between them. So just to check your knowledge, if you were to do this, it is 7x minus 7x, or not minus, 7x and 7x. So again, the square root of 49 is 7, so it is 7x times 7x gives us the 49. Minus 9 plus 9, that makes the 81, and that's the answer. So whenever there are squared numbers with a minus between them, it has to be a minus. If it's a plus, it does not work. So now looking at 11, can we do 11? No, because it is a plus. Okay, and so we can't do it with a plus because we need the plus and minus so the middle terms go away. One has to be positive, one has to be negative. So number 11 is not factorable. There we go. On question 13, how many terms are there? 4. So when you see 4 terms, you're going to try to do factoring by grouping. Remember this at all? So we're going to break it into 2 groups. The first group and the second group. So there's our 2 groups. What is the first group? What are both 3 and 12 divisible by? 3, right? And how many x's do they have in common?
2.
So I'm going to take out 3x squared. When I say take out, it's kind of like we're going to divide them by this. So what's 3 divided by 3? 1. And x cubed really had 3 x's, but I've taken 2 of them out. How many are left?
1.
What's 12 divided by 3?
4.
So I'm going to put a 4 there, and I took those 2 x's out. So they're gone. So if I multiplied the 3x squared back in, I would get what I have up there in white. So now let's do the other side. What are they each divisible by? 12, right? Yeah, they're both divisible by 6, but 12 is the bigger one. So we're going to take out a negative 12. So negative 12 divided by negative 12 is just 1, and the x is still there. What's a negative 48 divided by negative 12? Yeah, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So now we have that point. So we have a green one and a yellow one. We have a green term and a yellow term. Good. And they have a like term in them, so we can take that like term out of them. So we can take out the x plus 4 from both of them. So I take out the x plus 4. What's left? And the leftovers, they get written in their own parenthesis. Because if I were to look at it this way, the 3x squared is going to multiply both of them, and the negative 12 would multiply both of them. And so it's the same thing that we had right here, it's just a different way of writing it. And for your test, this will be the answer, but for the extra credit part of the test, I'll show you the extra credit part. Are you ready for the extra credit part?
Yes.
So if you get to this point, you're good. You get full credit. But here's the extra credit part. What are both 3 and 12 divisible by?
3.
So I'm going to put that 3 out here. I divide it by 3, I'm left with x squared. 12 divided by 3 is
4.
negative 4. What did we learn up above if I have 2 squared terms with a minus between them? It factors again, right?
Yeah.
It factors to be x minus 2 and x plus 2. And then I just, to make things look better, I put the 3 at the front, and then the x plus 4 comes down. That's the extra credit part. This is, you'll get full credit if you do this part, but the extra credit is taking it that little bit further. So I break it into 2 pieces. There's the first piece. Here's the second piece. On most of these, once we do the first part, it kind of gives us a hint for the second part. So what are both 20 and 45 divisible by? So by 5 and an x. So 20 divided by 5 is 4, and I took an x out, so that leaves 1. 45x divided by 5x is 9. So most likely this side over on the right is going to be 4x plus 9 as well. Okay, not always, but that's kind of the hint. So what times 28? Whoops. What times 4 is 28? 7. So I'm going to try taking a 7 out and see if that works. And a negative 7. So negative 7, 28 divided by 7 is 4. Negative 63 divided by negative 7 is 9. So that does work. So now my next step is to do what? Yeah, pull out the like terms from both of them. So I pull out or factor that 4x plus 9, and what's left? So 5x and negative 7, they get their own parenthesis. Now, can I do what I did on last one? Is there a squared here, or are either of these, do they have a common multiple? Common divisor? No. So that's my answer, and I'm done. So that's the left side of that worksheet.